So now that it's out of the car, want to get the 3SFE off and put the 2ARFE on. Make sure it fits with the transmission, make sure it clears the transfer case, and so on and so forth. Remove the wiring harness and everything. So just basically get this hunk of junk out of here. So in my infinite wisdom, the new engine's still back there, while the car is here, incapacitated, in the way. So you guys get to struggle. You guys get to watch me struggle to get that out. So I pulled the two mounts. So this is from Scion TC. This is from this RAV4. So it's possible that this lines up pretty close with the mount on there. It looks like I just have to enlarge a couple holes and they probably bolt together, which might put that in the right spot. This, you can see it's quite a bit larger than the RAV4 mount. So these holes won't work, but this bracket's removable, so is this one. So I could do some kind of hybridization between them, have to shave this down to bolt it up to this, but that is an option as well. It just might work. So I was able to get the E50F bolted up to the 1AR. Not a huge surprise there. Based on direct lean, the engine makes sense. Took quite a bit of grinding on the transfer case, which again, that was expected. I was able to get 7 bolts in the bell housing. 6 of them currently are tapped, and then one actually have to tap this hole here, which is, I believe, the same hole as on the 2GR on MR2 swaps, if you're familiar with that. Not a huge deal. I did manage to grind a hole in the oil pan. I don't know if I'm going to weld it or just try to plug it with RTB. Not sure yet. I need to take it back apart, see how big the wall is around there. But regardless, that's good progression. So now we know all-wheel drive 1AR is definitely possible. Alright, so since this fits up against the trans, we're going to throw it in the car for the first test fit. That could have gone worse. I broke 2. Both of them. Make sure your ratchet straps are rated for the job you're doing.
Now, it's been several hours since this incident, and I've had a lot of time to mull it over and look at the footage. Originally, I thought that the ratchet strap was too tight around a corner on the valve cover, which still may have been the case. However, looking the video over, it becomes obvious to me that the engine must have been slightly wedged in place, and it actually started lifting the car slightly, which moved the jack stand it's on, and then the ratchet strap broke. So had I been slightly more careless, I really could have seriously been injured from this.
Well, that was fun. The engine's in place, roughly. I know it's very far forward for how it's supposed to be. Holy shit, these engines just sit really far forward. The 3S, for reference, was like mostly back here, the valve cover, but this is all the way upright pretty much. So plenty of room for stuff like intake manifolds, very little room for stuff like exhaust. So that's gonna be fun. I may have to move the radiator or get a different model. Same with the condenser, but we'll have to see. Worst case, I just shift the whole thing back a few millimeters. I can buy myself some room. I can make custom mounts for each side if I need to. Not the end of the world. So continuing on, I'm going to start putting the subframes in so I could get the motor centered correctly. Subframes are two parts. There's just kind of forward and rear crossbar, and then there's the main sideways submember, crossmember, subframe. A little progress update since last we talked. The engine is pretty much in its final position. The engine mount here, I'm reusing the RAV4's stock engine mount. However, I'm moving it forward. Normally it's back here, and the mounting positions on the ARs are way up here. So I'm moving it forward. I'm reusing that rear bolt hole and adding a new stud up front. And I'm just making a new mount to bolt to this from the AR. And I'm doing that with, here's the stock AR mount, and I just kind of made this steel plate. I'm gonna drill the holes, bolt it up to the motor, and then make the part they need to weld on. Should be good to go. So this is the basics of what I came up with for engine mount. Obviously I'm going to add more bracing to this. I'm going to add one here in the middle, and I'm going to add a brace right here on that split and on each of the sides, avoiding the bolt holes here. And then again on the bottom I'm going to do one in the middle, just to make sure those bolts are clear. So basically it just gets the stock first gen engine mount and just kind of sits on top like that. Bolts in, and that should be plenty strong. This will also move the engine back a tiny bit from where I had it, so it should help with stuff like exhaust clearance that I was worried about. Well, the engine's fully mounted to this thing. The mount was pretty easy to make. It's just a flat piece with a couple angles welded on it. Not a huge deal. I had to move the engine mount forward by 1 bolt hole. I will have to add a new bolt hole. However, not a huge deal. I'm just going to weld in an insert. I don't think a rib nut would be structurally sound enough for this. Just like that. I do have new shorter bolts for these top 2 on order. Basically, that's just interfacing the same part of the engine that this did. That's just a flat bolt pattern there. And then a couple angles are welded down, and it's just bolted to this RAV4 engine mount here. And it was just that easy. So what's next for this? Still have to test fit all of the accessories. As you saw, it's very far forward. I have very little room for stuff like exhaust. In fact, I may have to move the radiator forward or run a narrower radiator further that way to make clearance for stuff like that. So that's going to be the next video. Decided to call it here for this video. I thought it made sense. I tried to make this video faster paced, less time lapse, and more talking. Let me know how you guys like that. I'm always open for more suggestions on that as well. So that's going to be it for this video. Next video, we're going to have the AC stuff fitted, hopefully. Maybe even start wiring, probably not though. Catch you guys next time.